All right, we are back for another exciting week of GPS Live. And so I do have a new guest with me this week. Tristan is out. And so, hey, everybody, my name is Jonathan Singer.
I'm Ryan Soper.
Hey, Ryan.
How you
And
doing?
this is the week of August 26, 2022. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Ryan, how was your week, man?
Pretty good. Not too bad. Same old, same old.
Yeah. Well, I've been keeping track. I noticed there's quite a few vendor vulnerabilities, so everybody should be
Mhm.
looking into what CISA is saying this week regarding lots of different bugs going on. But that's not necessarily part of our stories this week. We got a lot lined up for everybody. So let's kick off that lovely disclaimer, right? That we all love to do. So, of course, the views and opinions expressed by the hosts of this live stream are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official opinions of GuidePoint Security. Great. Now that we got that out of the way, we can say whatever we want, right? Now let's see where this goes. So we do have an exciting week. Quite a lot has been going on, right? I imagine all the hacky things. Are you hacking stuff, Ryan? Are you finding all the great hacks?
We're finding the great hacks, fixing the pipelines, doing it all.
Perfect. Well, how about this? Let's kick off to our first story of the week. And it's going to be something interesting that affects a lot of people these days, right? Are you hearing more and more about cyber insurance in your customers and industry and stuff like that?
Here with my world, yeah, we're talking about, nation state hackers and, anything that comes from like what, hack for hire operators and sympathetics, cyber criminals. So,
Nice. Well, this article coming to us from theregister.com is talking about a particular, cyber insurance provider, Lloyd's, right? Everybody may be familiar with the famous Lloyd's of London, right? That'll pretty much insure anything. And they've made it a point to specifically exclude certain nation state attacks from cyber insurance policies. Right? This is definitely an interesting take. Right? You and I, we were
mhm.
kind of looking over the article, and there's a lot going on here. But some of the details, at least I was able to pick out that they're they want to continue to support cyber attack coverage, right? But nation state stuff seems to be a little bit costly to cover, right? What are you seeing here that they're talking about?
Right. And I think they're talking about the bottom line being, losses arising from war. And,
Mhm.
here we are in a wartime, right? For
Yeah,
the
and
nation.
how do we even like determine, right, what's a war, right? Who makes that decision? Because that could be subjective. And furthermore, I know that one of the things that was called out in the article is that it's hard to discern, right, particular crime groups or nation states.
Yeah,
How do you determine
attribution.
that?
Hmm.
Exactly, that attribution. How do you say with 100% certainty? It's hard, right? Because there's all kinds of techniques and things that are used. But
Right.
but yeah, like as far as this kind of stuff goes, this is going to take an interesting hit because, like you said, right now we could potentially be considered in a war, right?
Yeah, the free for all, right? When there's ever this war, then you got everybody else kind of ramping up and trying to, pretend to be other nation states and
Mhm.
whatever else.
Yeah, and by no means, right? Neither you or I are an attorney, right? So there's a lot of
Right.
legal binding contracts that are taking place here because that's what an insurance policy actually is, right? And so is attribution a legal thing? Is wartime a legal thing? Um, it's kind of complicated, but I think a lot of our viewers out there are going to be in a boat where they have maybe their own cyber insurance, right? And today, maybe they're covered by this, but it sounds like maybe when one company starts making certain exclusions, it's going to have a trickle effect. Do you think that's going to start happening in industry?
Yeah, of course. Nobody wants to pay out huge sums of money, right?
Of course.
So
Of course.
you could see that argument of like the who, right? That's always hardest part to answer in attribution.
Hmm.
And with all the everything else, right? 0 days floating out there, and all the other CVEs that people are starting to like come across.
You're absolutely right. For instance, nation states are right up there with cybercrime. All these different groups. They have the money, they have the funds, and we'll call it the disposal, right, to buy 0 days to be used against different targets. And I think that's one of the big things that this kind of focuses on. But then that makes it even more difficult, because then if it's unique, if it's something that we've never seen before, if it truly is an O-Day, then how do we determine whose O-Day is it, right? Versus there are a slew of well-known, maybe like command and control things, or different types of malware that by now we've pretty much figured out who the operators are, right? We've been
Hmm.
able to trace it back over the years and things of that nature. So definitely an interesting challenge. Do you have any kind of like closing final thoughts on this one? I know I'm going to be bringing it up. In fact, I've already started sharing this concept with my friends in the cyber insurance world about what they're seeing, and they said that exact thing. They feel like once one does it, it's going to start rolling.
Yeah. Talk to your lawyer.
True, right? I'm not an attorney. But that's definitely something interesting that's going on, and that kind of helps us. You want to give a try at a segue into our next article?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about new 0 days, and um, that our next article here is talking about a hacker stealing cryptocurrency from Bitcoin ATMs and exposing just that, a 0 day vulnerability.
Yeah, absolutely. So what kind of details were you able to pick out from this article from Bleeping Computer?
Yeah, it seems due to like two-way communications in these ATMs that the attackers exposed a flaw that would allow them to create default administration users to change crypto settings and payment addresses so that customers who are sending their coins into these ATMs gets intercepted and redirected to the attacker's wallet versus their own.
Nice. So like all good IoT things, right, are connected to the internet in some way. And we're not just talking, right, thermostats, we're not just talking front door locks and washing machines anymore. So we got these ATMs online. Better yet, they're crypto ATMs. And they seem to have, according to the article, right, they're running an exposed service on port
Mhm.
7777, right? And so we were talking before the show, that's not a necessarily a difficult thing to track down, right?
Yeah, not at all. I mean, there's plenty of tools like Shodan. It's a big popular tool that's very inexpensive to have a membership, and then you can just use into different search indexes to look for these ports.
Yeah. So it sounds like to us, because the article didn't exactly say how they did all this, right? It's still very
Right.
high level, but it
Yeah.
sounds like they said that they, at least the manufacturers, believe the actors were scanning the internet for servers on 777
Hmm.
seven, right, 47s, and then from there they essentially developed their own old Ode, or maybe even purchase it. The point is there is an unknown attack. It was absolutely brand new,
Yeah.
and it was used against the software, right? This we called, I think it was called what, crypto application server, right?
That's right.
uh,
Yeah.
and so they used this attack against the crypto application server. As you mentioned, we were able to create their own admin account, and then simply just started changing the transaction addresses, right? And so
Yeah.
what was that the process, right? You'd walk up to this ATM and you deposit, right? Is that how it worked?
Yeah. I mean, this is two-way communication. So, you want to deposit your own coins and get cash out of the ATM, that it has that ability for that. That's what it appears to be in this article, right? And you're thinking that you're pulling from, your own account and or depositing, I should say, and it's redirecting.
Okay. So it sounds like, I have crypto, I want cash. It says send to this address and we'll
Hmm.
verify the transaction. So I'm like, all right, sure. I'll scan that QR code and boom, I transferred my, I don't know, zero point zero 0.01 Bitcoin over. Not that I have any at all. And and instead of going to this company's address, right, for them to bank it and return cash and refund. It went to the attackers. They literally just completely redirected where all the funds were going. This is absolutely crazy. And you know what this reminds me? It's a different, like, I don't know. It's a different kind of thing, right? But classic ATM attacks, as in like ATM automatic teller machines, right? We call them jackpotting, right? Where you hack an ATM machine and you get it to spit stuff out. A little bit different in nature, though, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I guess it would be. I guess I don't have too much to comment there, but yeah.
No, that's okay, man. Like it's definitely a one to look out for, and so the article continues to go on and mention that it has been patched, right? But there still are a handful of ATMs out there that are exposing themselves to the internet, right? They're not properly firewalled or restricted to the operator's IP addresses. Right? They can still be accessed by anybody in this case.
Hmm.
But I hope to see some of this more, addressing this kind of stuff in the future, because like you said, we've spotted these things around town. We have Bitcoin ATMs
Yeah.
here in Tampa, and so they're definitely getting more prevalent, right? Have you heard those stories about there's like the gold ATMs like in Dubai and stuff?
Okay. Yeah,
Have,
vaguely have heard of it. Yeah.
yeah, imagine like jackpotting on that thing. Like
Sure, you're gonna make a good tangible cash out.
what it like spit out gold bars. So but yeah, and so thought it would be fun, little interesting story to highlight, and this just goes to show, um, you know, uh,
Hmm.
first things first, everything's a computer, and the other big thing here is that. When you're in these kind of industries, crypto, financial, all that stuff, you're pretty much a big old walking target, right? And you gotta take every step possible. Well, let's do this.
Yeah, it
This helps
sounds.
us. What's up?
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say it sounded like a lot of configuration problems with the bugs too. So, and I know the
Definitely.
plenty of steps, right? Check your firewalls, make sure that it's locked down. I think that was kind of like the point of this whole story,
Yeah, they kind of just left it
like a
hanging.
zero trust.
Well, yeah, seriously. And so that helps us kind of bounce over into our next article, actually. So let's do this. How about this? Ready? So hackers stealing crypto um, from cybercrime gangs. How about cybercrime gangs changing up their code base, right? And so we have a story here from the Hacker News called Cybercrime Groups Increasingly Adopting Sliver Command and Control Framework. And
Hmm.
this is definitely a cool article. One of the things I noticed right away that was mentioned here was that uh, this and technically other frameworks too, other command and control frameworks are starting to replace Cobalt Strike, right? Would What do
Yeah,
you think about that?
yeah. Why pay for something when you can get it for free?
It is. You're right. It is. This is so.
Right.
So Slivers come to us right as a Go based open source command and control platform, and it's got like tons of features. Right. We're talking extensions and custom implant generation and just all kinds of like interesting what they call commandeering options. A little bit of a word, but it's really interesting. But did I mention open source? Right, and you said it, free.
Hmm.
Um, and so this Sliver platform has been around since late 2019, or at least that's when it was, um, uh, you know,
Made
made
public. Yeah,
public.
released. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, what other kind of interesting details are you seeing here that are definitely of note?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to open source, right? Like, it's freely available. Anybody can come and get it. A quick Google search or even downloading like some famous operating systems will come with it already. And
Yeah,
I
you said
think
that this is already part of Kali, right?
that's right. Yeah.
So basically, if you're already working with some of the later versions of Kali, it sounds like you have access to this command and control platform, and the source code to go with it. Something interesting they mentioned, right? And this comes from Microsoft. from their security experts is they've kind of highlighted, look, Cobalt Strike is popular, right? They everybody has kind of understood that it has been used for command and control and beaconing tools, but we're also improving defenses against it, right? We're understanding it more. We're understanding how to identify it. And so with the industry saying, okay, look, we know what kind of tools you're using. We're learning how to better defend against it and work around it. Right. So somebody new is going to come to the scene, right? All these
Yeah.
new tools are hitting the ground running. And also, doesn't it say here that some of these ransomware as a service groups are already starting to use this?
Yeah, that's right. We're talking some pretty big APT groups that are already
Mhm.
leveraging this to deploy, different strains such as Ryu, Conti, Hive, and Black Cat, to name a few.
Yeah, and Conti's one we've actually had on, we've talked about on the show before in the past, because they go after some pretty big targets, including government and other things of that nature. The article kind of goes on to explain a little bit about how some of the technical process works regarding how it plants itself in the system, and it's kind of like chain of execution. But one thing
Mhm.
I thought was really interesting was that migration tool, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so they
Mhm.
basically have put together a free migration tool to help you migrate off of Cobalt Strike, um, so that you can start using this, right? And so from the article, right, the migration from Cobalt Strike is a freely available tool, as seen an attempt on the part of adversaries, right, to decrease their chances. And so clearly, this is a growing threat. And it's also been quoted to been not just from necessarily from malicious actors, but also from state sponsored groups, right? And
Mhm.
and a number of other things. Um, but uh, but yeah,
Which
this
kind
is
of leads back into like that first article, right? You're talking about your insurance, and so making easier to deploy.
exactly. And we'll also just kind of having to deal with that attribution aspect, right?
Hmm.
Uh, but but this is another area that we're seeing a lot of advancement in, between, as we mentioned, the ransomware as a service, utilizing the freshest and newest of tools to stay ahead of the curve. Can't always just use the same old thing, because all these companies will start to be able to defend against it effectively. Um, in fact, I'm pretty sure Microsoft quoted it really well. They said Sliver and many other C2 frameworks are yet another example of how threat actors are continually attempting to evade automated security detections, right? And I
Yeah.
completely agree with that statement. This is exactly what's kind of happening in that industry and in that space. Um, and and so I guess we just got to kind of keep up with it. At least it is open source, and maybe a lot of these defense teams are reviewing the code and trying to better understand how to identify it, right?
Yeah, I feel like you could start seeing some stuff come out. Usually that's the name of the game, right? New
Hmm.
attack vectors, and then some other threat intelligence groups will start coming out with signatures for people to start implementing into their whatever solution you're using.
Exactly. Well then, yeah, let's I'd say as we're rounding up here, we'll kind of spin off into our last story of the day. Um, do you wanna take away
Yeah.
the last little bit? Go for it.
Sure. I mean, we're talking here now that Plex, the nice famous streaming service, telling the users to reset their passwords after a potential breach, a data breach here. That was able to, a third party entity, whoever that attacker was, accessing usernames and emails and encrypted passwords. So here you'll be wanting to update those passwords if you're a Plex user.
I know I am, right? I'm definitely, I received that email and the long-winded message about how they were compromised and that the passwords are encrypted. And in fact, a lot of folks, I would imagine, that are either listening to this
Yeah.
stream now or in the future, you probably have Plex or know somebody who has Plex, and And just this is just something we wanted to bring up, but I think less about bashing on Plex. That's not what we're here to do. But there's a lot going on here, and because this is kind of a very
Hmm.
common story, we see this a lot: services being breached, credentials being stolen. But there's light at the end of the tunnel, right? They did a couple things well here, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you're talking multi-factor authentication, 2FA, using password generators, then this becomes kind of like a trivial issue to you, and a quick update. So always having something like multi-factor turned on, and we're talking about complex password versus length, right? And like the new updates here, like what you see with NIST, really talking about moving to passphrases and having supportive password managers and those type of things to help you kind of create that.
Absolutely. And that. I hope that's the case for a lot of our viewers, right? One of the I guess we'll call it most troubling things of service breaches is although your passwords may have been encrypted, right, at the time, because that's an OAuth top 10 right there, right? Don't let your passwords be in plain text for your
Right.
applications. But furthermore, it's only a matter of time before they do get cracked in some fashion or manner. And so having like you mentioned password manager or password generator, such that every website has a different password. You don't want to do password reuse because that is still rampant. We're still dealing with a lot of that stuff. And as you mentioned, yeah, it's two-factor, right? Where if that password is still compromised and stolen, it's you still have like your cell phone, right? And that 6-digit pin of some sort that gets sent to
Hmm.
you. So you were very clear, right? They did mention, right? It's emails, usernames, and encrypted passwords.
That's
If
it.
you are like a Plex Pass or one of their paid things, none of the other information was compromised as part of this. Um, but still, right? There's that kind of lesson learned here where
Right.
we're going to keep seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even famous people are, on the internet here getting stuck in the same boat, so nobody's unmissable from these type of attacks.
Of course, of course. And so lucky for the rest of us, when you get your password reset done and everything's getting taken care of, Plex has reported that it has been patched, so that's good. But it does sound like a very common story, right? This is definitely something
Mhm.
that we've all had to deal with repeatedly, right? And so, I'm going to throw this out on you. What would you say would be like your top 3 things to keeping your application secure, right, for users? If you were an app developer, how what would you suggest?
Yeah. Really, um, you're talking about storing encrypted passwords, don't do
Yeah.
that. Don't store
I'm putting you
hard-coded
on your
keys
spot
on.
because you
Yeah,
do
you are.
application security, man. Like,
I
I'd
do,
love to
and
hear I'd love to hear
I
what you
think
got.
a lot of the common themes with the code is more like your input validation,
Mhm.
as far as development goes, and you know, hard-coded keys can be something that people use in their dev environments, and they might miss it when they're going into like production. So there's a lot of things to look out for, especially with top 10. Access controls and broken access controls would be like the number one there.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, they didn't mention exactly how it was compromised, right? What the vulnerability or the
Sure.
exploit that they used. But it could be, one of those things, right, where there could I mean, it is quite likely that there was a bug of some sort that caused this issue to take
Yeah.
place. And it has been discovered. But yeah, make sure do your best to clean up the code and do your best practices, right? Encrypted passwords on disk, which was done here. And kind of there's a whole number of other things. I mentioned that OWASP top 10 is a great reference when you're kind of considering application
Yeah.
security. I know it's something that you reference against when it comes to different application security kind of tasks, right?
Yeah, it's the go-to. OWASP, they have everything, when it comes to application security.
Perfect. Well, that pretty much rounds it up this week. Again, our stories, as we went over them, are the register.com speaking about Lloyd's approach to exclude nation state attacks. The Hacker News helped us focus on the Sliver command and control framework that is quickly replacing Cobalt Strike. Um, Bleeping Computer brought us the story about Bitcoin ATMs that have been exposed and compromised via an ODA. And finally, Engadget was kind enough to tell us about the Plex compromise and just kind of that common theme of lessons learned and how to, kind of roll it off because it's going to continue happening. Outside of that, I would say it's been a wonderful week. Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining
Yeah,
this
thanks
week.
for having me.
Really appreciate it. And so with that, this has been, again, the GPS Live for the week of August 2020, or August 26, 2022. I am just having one of those days. For everybody online and for everybody in the future, thank you so much. My name is Jonathan Singer.
Now I'm Ryan Soper.
All right. And have a good one.
Take care, everyone.